once my kids were in crisis, I was able to use my voice to help others. And I was able to use my voice to actually make meaningful change. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't happen until someone speaks up.
Right.
Because you don't know that there's a problem. You think everything's fine until you say something. And it's like you see something, say something. It's the same thing with education, that it's not working.
This is Megan, owner of Dyslexia on Demand.
And I'm Eryn, owner of Advocate to Educate.
And we are the Don't Call on Me podcast.
We are here to talk about dyslexia, to remove the stigma, to hear what families really go through, and to share their stories.
In both of our businesses and personal experiences, on a daily basis, we listen to people telling their stories. Many of heartbreak, many of struggle, but most all have a silver lining, even eventually.
It's all about the stories. The more we share, the more we realize we aren't alone and we are a community. No, a tribe standing together.
Today's episode is sponsored by Dyslexia on Demand. Dyslexia on Demand uses only the highest trained dyslexia therapists, and it's all one-on-one and individualized to your child's needs. The best part is that it doesn't matter where you're located because it's all virtual. Visit us at dyslexiaondemand.com to learn more.
Today's episode is sponsored by Advocate to Educate. We help parents navigate through the confusing maze of special education in public schools in California. We support families starting as early as preschool through 12th grade, creating individual education plans to support the specific needs of your unique and amazing child. To learn more, go to our website, advocatetoeducate.com. Let's start.
So briefly introduce yourselves and just kind of a little bit about who you are, how you ended up here, that kind of thing.
All right. My name is Lucia. I am a mom of 3. I have a 14-year-old son and boy-girl 11-year-old twins. Both of our twins are dyslexic and dysgraphic and just think so uniquely. It's really amazing and to see the way that they think. And they are such an inspiration to me of how strong they are and how hard they work every single day. And joining me today is my daughter.
My name is Ansley, and I'm 11.
What grade are you going into?
6.
It's a big year. Are you excited about going into middle school? Yeah, I hear you. I think as moms, I bet your mama is a little bit also like, my girl's going into middle school. It's just that ripping that Band-Aid off to move on. So
why don't you guys also share where you're from?
So we live in a suburb outside of Oklahoma City in Oklahoma.
I live next to Deer Creek.
Yes, we are in Deer Creek Public School District. Okay. But Ansley will share a little bit more about her experience and what school that she and her twin brother are currently at.
Okay. Yes. Excellent. All right. So how about we just kind of kick it off by you guys sharing a little bit more about your journey, like a little bit about when we learned that the twins had dyslexia. Ainsley's when you learned and you first realized, right, that you had dyslexia, kind of some of the emotions tied to it.
Perfect. Do you want me to start about when I noticed or when you noticed?
When I noticed.
Okay, go ahead. You talk first.
My twin brother, they found out when he was in 2nd grade, which was right after the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And so they decided to get me tested for it. And the guy, it only showed that I had dysgraphia. So they thought I just had dysgraphia in 3rd grade. But then we got tested that summer again, and it showed that I had dyslexia too. And so I shadowed at where my brother was going, Trinity. I found out that summer that I got in. When I wasn't diagnosed with it yet, I had a struggle with reading and writing, and that was like one of my worst subjects because I couldn't do anything about it. They didn't really have much help there. Like somebody would come to the classroom sometimes, but not a lot.
Was there something that you noticed in the classroom for you that was particularly hard?
I was always asking for help to spell stuff and like, what is this? What is this word? What does this word mean? And when it came to like in third grade, we had a spelling bee, but there was a before spelling bee. I got out the first try, but other people did too. But there was 2 practice spelling bees, and I got out like the first try on the first time, which I'm like, I should know some of these words. And teachers were always asking me, what does this say on my paper?
Were they asking other kids that or mostly you?
Mostly me.
Okay. And then do you remember how you felt in that moment when they would ask you?
I felt embarrassed and different. Like I couldn't do it.
And they recommended her for the Summer Reading Academy after the summer between 3rd and 4th grade. And she had a journal. So she had written, I am stupid, I'm an idiot, and that she didn't want to be on Earth.
I bet your mom will never forget that moment. So, and it's pretty common to have those.
It's beyond common. Girl, I was going to tell you, I had 5 of those journals, like for real. That's why Megan and I are doing this podcast, because we need other kids that are just like you and me to know that when we have these feelings that, like, does it make you feel a little bit better to know that I also felt that way? Even though you don't know me, but still, right?
Because, like, I felt like I was the most stupidest person in my class, and no one else really that I knew came to the summer school. I was like, what is this for? Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to go here? Because it wasn't that fun. Because summer school, I feel like it just makes some people think that they're stupider than they are.
100%. And every single time I hear, especially like, the school is recommending that you do this summer school, right? But it's not something that's specifically crafted for how your brain learns. And as parents, we're just doing our best, right? Your mom didn't know like what to do. All we want to do is help as parents, but don't have all the answers, right? So we just kind of trust the people who are in charge of your education, right?
Yeah. And since my brother had dyslexia and dysgraphia, they thought I just had dysgraphia, but I had dyslexia too, and they wanted to get me tested because most twins, if one has one thing, then it's most likely the other does too.
Can I share something? So when she was in kindergarten, she's a real amazing teacher who wrote a note and said that Ansley kept using the same word in all of her stories, like play, mom, dad. So she thought something might be going on. So talked to the principal, and she said, because at the time, neither one were identified, let's give it some more time. And I believed her. So she's like, there's a new teacher for 1st grade. It's going to be great. She'll be so good for her. So we go through 1st grade and another wonderful teacher, and it still wasn't going like we thought it would. And she would come home and she would practice reading before she would have to read in class, like whatever book it was, over and over and over. And I thought something's wrong. I feel like she might be dyslexic. And so we had her evaluated, and they said it was just anxiety. That's why she was struggling to read. And then the pandemic hit. And so she's going to need some therapy, some counseling. We have a program with our school district. She'll get it next year. So this is in March. So next year, she's going to get this counseling. So pandemic year was second grade year, and her first grade teacher stayed home with her kids. So we had a learning pod. So half the time she was with her first grade teacher she knew, and then the other 2 days was at school. And her twin brother was struggling, and his kindergarten teacher was tutoring him. Both of them were getting tutored. And she said, Lucia, I think he might be dyslexic. Had him tested. It was someone different who evaluated him. Highly intelligent. He's dyslexic. And I knew our district didn't have what he needed. So I worked with some legislators. I worked with our local, the only one in Oklahoma, our Academic Language Therapy Association Training Center, and met with our director of special education and got funding to train teachers in structured language basics. But they were just going to do our reading specialists and our special ed teachers. Well, I knew he wouldn't get what he needed. So I researched schools. Ansley had started counseling, and he moved to a school called the Trinity School at Edgemere that does 45 minutes every day utilizing Take Flight for reading therapy.
Yeah.
And so then we start our third grade year. And in between second and third, I went to the district again and said, she's still struggling. And he's like, well, we had this structured language basics. Like, she's probably going to be okay. Again, trusted him because he had started this new program. Our son was fine. So then Christmas, she's still not doing as well as we would like. And we saw the difference in her twin brother. So I brought reading samples to him, and she was still doing therapy, and said, well, you know what? So this is going into our third grade year, and thought, she's dysgraphic. I'm like, okay, like, you think that's it? He's like, well, yeah, like, her verbal comprehension is really high. She's so intelligent. Her verbal comprehension is incredible. Her vocabulary is incredible. Like, she's probably not dyslexic, like, not knowing at the time, like, that's exactly
the profile. Like, that is always the strength.
Yeah. And her twin brother didn't have the same profile because for him, it appeared different. He had the hyperactivity side. His emotional IQ and verbal comprehension just wasn't the same as Ansley's, because she does theater and all these things are like, that's really a high need. And that's just, he has a different, math is more like his strong suit, and numbers and like engineering. So I requested an IEE and chose someone from that used to work in the district purposely, so they'd have to accept the findings, because Ansley didn't really want to switch schools at the time. She wanted to stay at our public school. She didn't want to go where her twin brother was. And they found out that she was reading about kindergarten, first grade level, going into fourth grade.
Wow.
And I was so upset and frustrated because I said, like, this isn't, you missed it. You missed it.
And it's not rocket science either. I think that's what's so frustrating, is that this is something that we've known about for so long, that, and it's education. It's in a system where you assume that there is some kind of knowledge on their end. There's got to be someone within that school. They're elementary school teachers, for God's sake, right? It's like a double letdown when you see that. How did it get missed? And how did it in such a profound way for so long? It's very disappointing.
Yes.
100%.
So then she still didn't want to go to the school. So I said, well, let's try it for a couple of weeks. And we have the Lindsay Nicole Henry Scholarship that if you're on IEP, it pays for part of your tuition. And so I met with the IEP team at her homeschool. She went ahead and started at Trinity because we had 10 days to see if she liked it. And if she didn't like it and they could meet her needs, we'd move her back. And they offered 30 minutes once a week.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, that's not going to do it. I'm on the board now at Payne Education Center, which is our training center that trains teachers and trains you to become a CALT, a certified academic language therapist. And so like, one lesson of structured language basics, like, that takes an hour. And I missed saying, in her third grade year, they put her on an individualized program for reading instruction. And they had written on there she would get structured language basics. Well, after a few weeks, I asked her, like, hey, are you getting that? She's like, no, Mom. So I talked to the teacher. She's like, oh, no, we didn't think she needed it. We're just doing fluency phrases.
No. And just to put it in perspective for anyone who's listening, is not familiar with any kind of intensive therapy, like the Fidelity standard, research shows is going to be more like 4 hours per week. So 30 minutes once a week isn't going to do anything. Yeah.
And they said, well, have you thought about counseling? I'm like,
Well,
she's been there for 2 years and that's not what she needs.
no, we need that too, probably.
Yes,
But
we need both. And like, well, we're going to push in. I'm like, no, she needs direct instruction. So I told them, I'm sorry, I can't. Oklahoma is a non-consent state. So they could do whatever they wanted
right.
with my consent. And so I said, I'm sorry, we're withdrawing her from the district.
Right.
But I promise you, I will never stop fighting for kids like Ansley. And then that's when Ansley really I am so proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
So they added dysgraphia to our state handbook. So Oklahoma has a dyslexia handbook, and now it's the Dyslexia and Dysgraphia about best practices for our teachers. And they asked for people to be on the review committee. And so I asked to be the parent, and they needed students. And so I asked if Ansley could be. And they're like, well, we usually do secondary. I'm like, well, I think her voice is important. It was our head of Pain Education Center, another qualified instructor who trains certified academic language therapists. Ansley and I were going through this 400-page book, like page by page. And Heather asked Ansley, what is it like to be taught the way you learn? And they put her quote on page 61. And can I read it?
You have to read it.
Yeah,
we need to hear it.
Yeah, let me pull it up. And then if Ansley wants to read it, she can. Or if you want me to, I can. It is whatever you prefer. So it says, when this 10-year-old, because she was 10 at the time, student reviewer of this handbook, 2023, was asked what helped her become a better reader, she stated,
it's the way my Take Flight teacher teaches me. We go step by step, and she doesn't move on it until I have it. Before, my teacher would just have to keep going and then would try to come back later in a few days to show me again, but I was confused and never had enough time to understand. Now I know the rules and how it all works. It's like a puzzle, and I was missing the piece before.
And can I tell you something? Because my job, Ansley, is basically like explaining what dyslexia therapy is. And the way you just said it is pretty much what I try to impart on the people I'm speaking to. It is a big puzzle piece, and we have to start at the very bottom and build puzzle piece by puzzle piece. And if we miss one of those puzzle pieces, the other stuff on top doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit. You've done a beautiful job of like explaining what that means to people. And I hope that you're proud, because I'm proud of you. And I can't even imagine how proud your mom must be. But the voice that you're providing has got so much like value, and how important it is to educating the adults around you as to what you kids need. Your brain learns differently. It takes somebody who's really specially trained to be able to teach your brain. And there's nothing wrong with your brain. But like, I'm just proud of you guys both. Parents in general of kids with dyslexia, you guys, I always say you're the change makers. It's the parents in the pin. It's the Decoding Dyslexia representatives. It's all that you guys are the ones who push the change in the legislation, who got Oklahoma to have a handbook to start off with, right? But now that dysgraphia is included.
Yeah. And that your quote like just nails it, and it simplifies it to the point where it cannot be misunderstood. It's so simple. And if they just took that one direction, just don't move on until I really have it, please. It would make such a big difference. So that's the big fight that we're all fighting, so that other kids that don't have the family support that you have can also get that same intervention that they need. I want to know at this point, what does today look like? So where are you guys today? Well, you're going to middle school, but what school, what's happening now?
I go to Trinity, and they gave me the stuff that I needed. And so I'm pretty sure I'm on lesson 61. I started in 4th grade and now I'm almost done with book 3, I'm pretty sure.
Good for you.
So now she's
Awesome.
reading about at going into 6th grade. So she's about at into 4th, beginning of 5th. So almost at grade level.
Yeah.
Well, where did we go yesterday? Because you wanted to.
The library.
Yay.
What?
Yeah.
That is not a place I wanted to go at your age. Let me tell you. What were you gonna get?
I survived graphic novels.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. You really like what are your favorite graphic novel series? Because I know you really love graphic novels.
Babysitter's Club, Sweet Valley Twins, and I Survived.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you feel in general? Obviously, now, I mean, if I had to guess based on every other child with dyslexia that I get involved with, that you did not enjoy reading before, but now you do. How do you feel? Has this just kind of your therapy helped to unlock the potential?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm doing some tutoring because my teacher left for almost half of the school year because she had some personal problems. And so I'm doing some tutoring on that, and I'm reading the one and only Ivan too. It's gotten easier to read chapter books instead of just the graphic novels.
Yeah, that's awesome. And now you don't have to kind of look at everyone else doing the reading, you're doing it. That's huge. How would you say now that you moved to Trinity, how would you say that you see yourself? Has that changed at all?
Yeah.
Your confidence? Good.
You're in theater and you just had like one of the top roles.
The third one.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a lot of roles. The third most important is hugely important.
Excellent.
And that goes so much of reading goes so much into theater and
100%.
Knowing the words and reading the music. And what do you have later today?
Voice lessons.
Cool.
Yes.
I do voice lessons, dance, basketball, and theater. And I help teach dance too.
Oh, cool. So lots of creative endeavors. That's so sweet.
And I'll say before, she just didn't have the energy for all of that because there was some cognitive overload.
Right.
That now she has the space to do all the things that she enjoys. And that was a big part of us picking Trinity was I didn't want her going to school and not being taught the way she learned and then having to go somewhere else after school to be taught the way she learned. That's so hard on a kid. You don't get to be a kid.
Totally. That's what I would say is that sometimes it's a mean to an end, right? Sometimes you have to do that just for a short amount of time. But it's almost like Ansley, if you would have to do that, be penalized for the fact that the school wasn't teaching you the way that they're supposed to be teaching you for your brain, right? And after school, it's like all those opportunities for those confidence building activities that you really need as somebody who has struggled through school.
Yeah.
So how would you say that dyslexia impacts you now? What does your dyslexia look like? Maybe how's it changed? Do you have any thoughts on that to share?
What it looks like now, you would think she can read really well, but not as well as some other people. Well, that are bookworms, but I can still read well. My confidence definitely boosts up, and it's more fun to read than it was when I didn't have the help I needed. I can write better with my dysgraphia.
Beautiful handwriting.
We do cursive.
Yeah, I was like, nothing like that cursive. You should have seen my son. His writing, his letters went from this big to this big. And now he's got beautiful handwriting just from that cursive integration. That's so important.
Can I ask you, Ansley, do you remember the first book you finished that you read on your own?
Babysitter's Club.
I think all of us will remember our first book because it really feels like a huge accomplishment, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like huge.
I went to church camp, and there's this graduate speaker. She was speaking at worship, and she couldn't read till 5th grade because of her dyslexia. It was harder for her because everybody was reading out loud before her, and in 3rd grade, she had to read out loud, so she stalled, and so she didn't have to read.
Oh, well, that's why we titled our podcast Don't Call on Me. I mean, I would come up with all sorts of things, but to avoid getting called on.
Yeah.
I mean, anything I could.
Because I don't like when teachers when they're like, who wants to answer this question, and you're not even raising your hand because you're like, I'm not sure.
Exactly. And then they call on you and you're like, excuse me, I was not making eye contact with you. I was giving you all the body language not to call on me. But then they call on you to be like, are you paying attention? Oh my God, torture.
But
I have to go to the bathroom. Just can I? Yes.
One time I raised my hand and then I forgot the answer, so I just asked to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's what we do. That's what we do. I know.
She actually, because she cares, she has such an empathetic heart. And I think a lot of that comes from the way she's wired and because she struggles. So she has such a heart for other people, that she spoke at our public school board meeting. So I spoke about what is dyslexia, but Ansley spoke and shared her story. And what did you ask them to do? Do you remember?
To help the kids like me.
Yeah. My heart, my mama heart, my dyslexia advocate heart is just swelling with pride for you and your confidence and your willingness to help to advocate for all these other kids. I just see huge things for you. If you're going into 6th grade right now and you have this ability and willingness to speak up and speak in front of audiences and be so confident, I just think it's so special too that you have this story to share and you're going to change people.
Yeah, because if you see people that have dyslexia, but they're not getting the help you need compared to somebody that has dyslexia and are getting the help you need, and you compare them with their writing and reading, you can see which one's better, and it's the one that's getting this stuff. And so now that school, they are teaching Take Flight. Good. And it's one of my favorite teachers that's helping teaching Take Flight, and she lives in our neighborhood.
That's awesome. And it's not just their like reading and writing, right? It is
like their process thinking.
Yeah, but it's also what they're I mean, when you don't have diagnosed dyslexia, but you're struggling, it's like what the future decision, like what the future holds, like so many voices are important. So, and like both of you guys, your voices are so hugely important, and you're making a huge difference. So the next question I was going to ask your mom was what your mom sees as being your strengths and weaknesses related to your dyslexia. We already know what one of the strengths is.
I would say for Ansley, it's her strengths. She's so artistic, and has such a way of expressing that. And as you all have evidence here today, her ability to so eloquently speak and so confidently speak in public, and be so open and honest about her journey, I admire that so much. And the empathy that she has for others. I will say I wouldn't even say it's a weakness. It's something that we're working on. Is the impact that not receiving the help she needed and being misidentified for so long really did impact her mental health.
Yeah.
And so she still sees a counselor that helps with anxiety because that's something that is so ingrained in you when you're young that you have to rewire that part of your brain and that emotional response. And I am so proud of her for being so open about that and sharing that she struggles with that. I struggle with anxiety as well, and knowing it's okay to have feelings and it's okay to be upset and mad that things didn't happen like they should have, and taking that to do something positive. So recently, Oklahoma just got signed into law in May, which Ansley helped inspire, and I got to be a part of giving feedback. Was Senate Bill 362, which is a science of reading bill. It's called the Strong Readers Act. So redoing our Reading Sufficiency Act, because we shouldn't have sufficient readers. We should have strong readers. And so it eliminates the third grade retention, because more of the same, louder does not help.
Yeah.
And it bans 3 cueing, and it mandates teacher training for all, starting through third grade, then adding a year every year up till 8th grade. And it creates a content test for teacher certification, and it creates dyslexia micro-credentialing as well.
That's awesome.
Hey, I'm moving to Oklahoma. I'm moving to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, this sounds like this is magical. Absolutely magical.
One of our friends that knows Ansley is a senator and helped with crafting the bill, and they wanted our feedback on it and what helped, what didn't help. And it's been pretty phenomenal to see that happen. And it wouldn't have happened without Ansley.
That's amazing. Like,
I didn't know that.
So that's the model. I mean, there are several states who are like in that, taking that path. There's so many more that have to get on board. California, where Eryn is one of them.
It's a nightmare over here.
Until we get those changes, we're not going to see huge differences to our proficiency rates for reading and those big changes. And just to add one more thing for what it's worth, that what you guys did is enormous.
Huge.
The next thing is we need to figure out some way to hold them accountable.
I have a question about Ansley's ability, and you guys could both answer this, but do you think that you're comfortable speaking up about being dyslexic? Was that something that that came naturally to you and just kind of it was easy for you from the start? Or was that something that you kind of built up the courage to start doing?
I mostly built up the courage because I was embarrassed in first and second grade if I would ask for help of how to spell one of the sight words. I didn't really know how to spell what till 4th grade because I was too embarrassed to ask for help, and it was everybody was it's the most easiest word in the world to spell.
No, let me tell you, I have a word like that. The word is bean. Whether you and I think it's the hardest word and somebody else thinks it's an easy word, the impact of feeling like we don't know how to spell things that a first grader could spell, and we're in 4th grade or 5th grade or 6th grade or whatever, really does affect us, and it affects our heart, and it affects how we view ourselves. And so my hope for you through your journey of healing is that you learn that it doesn't mean anything about you. How you spell has no bearing on who you are as a person. It really makes no difference. So as soon as you move into that next phase in your life where you can decide to own a dance studio and teach dance to kids, reading, writing, and spelling, you could pay someone to do that. You don't need to do it yourself. Yeah, we need to learn the basics, but it's not going to make or break your choices in the future.
Do you think did it help you to become more outspoken about it, knowing what it was, knowing that you struggled because you're dyslexic and your brain is wired differently and you weren't being taught the way you needed to learn, which had nothing to do with you?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what helped you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just giving it a name?
Can you tell them what you said not to tell Hayden till he's 18?
Oh, yes. So I love
Ooh.
podcasts. So I told her and Dawson, I listened to this podcast by ADD magazine, Attitude. And it talked about how when you are neurodivergent, your brain is literally bigger.
Yeah.
And particularly if you are dyslexic and have ADD or ADHD, and Ansley has the ADD inattentive type, and that you have to make more neurological pathways in your brain. So your brain has more connections and your brain is literally bigger. And I told her she's not allowed to tell her older brother that until he's 18, that her brain is bigger and that she has neurological pathways than he does.
Yep.
Yeah.
Neurotypical. I mean, he and I are neurotypical. My husband, Ansley's our kid's dad. He is dyslexic, and my dad is undiagnosed dyslexic and dropped out of school in eighth going into ninth grade, and did well for himself as a truck driver, but he didn't get the help he needed. And I see that. Yeah, Dee did to support his family. No, he got his GED when Cupcake, your grandma, was pregnant with my brother after they were married.
There's usually a path we can follow to figure out how we got to where we are. So,
and he moved to Texas. My parents moved to Texas, moved from Texas to Oklahoma to help with the kids when her brother got diagnosed with dyslexia to help drive him to school.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want the same thing that happened to him to happen to his grandkids.
Oh, yes.
And so they live 4 streets over from us.
Oh.
He practices reading with them. Sometimes not as comfortable, but
so sweet.
Because he was never taught.
When I had homework from my tutoring, it's called a rap. It's where it's words and you read them. And so we were timing them. And my grandpa was like, I'm not doing it. If I do it, you're not going shopping for the next year.
Yes. But he likes to watch you do it, doesn't he? Because he's learning alongside you. He's just not comfortable saying it out loud yet.
Yeah, totally.
Because my grandma got like 13 seconds. Yes. And my dad got 27.
Yes.
It was hilarious.
But I think it's really valuable too that you have those people around you that you can identify with, right? That you're not the only person in your world who is walking that walk. So speaking of, what would you say is the best advice that you could give someone else with dyslexia? And this question actually goes to both of you because I want to know Ansley's thought and also Mom's thought on a parent who just finds out.
You can.
Yes. Yeah, just short and sweet.
I want a hat that says that.
I have to say, when she was saying that, her brothers and my husband were at the door. That's why I was looking at their and they were just giving thumbs up because they had their ear pressed to listen. I didn't know they were there.
I love that it's a family affair. And Ansley, tell me if this feels true for you. Now that you're living what it feels like to go to a school that's supportive and you're getting what you need. If your family giggles about something, you're not, and this is how I feel, like I'm okay with it because I laugh too. But had that happened a couple of years ago, it wouldn't have been as funny, or it wouldn't be something you'd be okay with joking about. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which at my school, like me and my friends are really close because we all have dyslexia, and we're just close because it's like easy knowing each other because we all have dyslexia. And if we misspell something or accidentally say something wrong while reading, we'll just giggle it off because we're so close that, you're probably going to do it next. Or
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
That support group is so hugely important. So, Mom, what would you say the advice is to a parent?
Trust your gut. I would say,
Yes.
you know, as a mom, when something's not right, you know your child best. And now I work for an education nonprofit and I'm a master IEP coach. So I get to walk alongside families in finding the right educational environment for their child and going to IEP meetings and all of those things. And to use your voice that you can actually make change, because that's the beauty that once my kids were in crisis, I was able to use my voice to help others. And I was able to use my voice to actually make meaningful change. And that doesn't happen until someone speaks up.
Right.
Because you don't know that there's a problem. You think everything's fine until you say something. And it's like you see something, say something. It's the same thing with education, that it's not working. And no teacher is there to hurt a child. They love their job. They just, when you know better, you do better, as I think Maya Angelou says.
Yep.
So we have to share that information and the impact and educate teachers that there's a better way and to give it a name. And there's power in that. And I think for parents, I mean, we say in our house, it's a superpower because we're looking at it strength-based. I know for others, they would not say that because that's their truth. And that's completely accurate for them.
Yeah, on a superhero day, when you dressed up, we had an old cape, like a Superman cape. So we put it on the other way, and she has a cricket, and she says, and she put on it in blue glitter, dyslexia and dysgraphia is my superpower.
I love it.
Yeah.
I want them to see that they can do anything and be anything. And it's our job as a parent to protect them. And once you talk about it out loud, it's hard to talk about what your child's struggling with. You find a community of support.
Right.
That, oh, wait, it's not just me. Okay, yes. And you can make change together. And it's wonderful because we've had teachers reach out of like, I don't feel comfortable saying anything. Can you speak out for me?
Yes.
This is how I feel. I'm like, I'm good.
I got this, girl.
We call it being positively persistent.
Yeah.
We don't want to do it from a place of anger or hurt, although that's valid in there, but that doesn't change things.
No.
So being positive and being persistent, it seems to be effective so far.
Yeah, 100%. Because when you take it the other direction, it tends to people just close their ears. So you're exactly right that that's the right approach to take.
And it affects so many people that it makes being positively persistent using your words something that it's critical. In a typical school, we're dealing with 20% of their population. I had this one private school say to me, no, not at our school. And I was just like, that's so sad that you really think that dyslexia is such that you've handpicked who isn't dyslexic when it's a school that starts in preschool.
That happens all the time, Eryn. Like my company just got back from representing at the National Charter School Conference. And an extremely common response from administrators was, we don't need to talk to your table because we don't have any children at our school with dyslexia.
Yes.
And we heard that over and over and over.
It actually, the superintendent in the school district where we live, because I was telling them, sharing information, and he said, those statistics don't apply to where we live.
Right. Of course.
And we're a 6A school district. And I mean, in email.
A 6A school district.
I'm like, it doesn't apply. Those are national statistics and they don't apply to here. And I said, well, I don't think that neurons, when they land at 34 days in utero, know where you live. So respectfully, and I'll be here to help.
That's a great.
My goodness. That's just not.
It's you have to laugh because it's so outlandish. Like, no, it's 1 in 5. They're there. It's your job to identify, to find them as a teacher. And use your parents, administrators.
It's a testament to how far we still have to go.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one last question, unless Eryn, you've got something burning.
I'm good.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
So I'd like to ask you, and this is pretty much for you, Ansley, is if you had to craft your life again, would you choose for dyslexia still to be part of it? And I want you to answer honestly. I don't want you to tell me what like you think people want to hear. I want to hear your honest answer.
I don't really know because dyslexia is hard for me, but it also makes me different than anybody else. But it's hard to really learn and get that to grade level again. So
I
don't think so.
You don't think so?
Well, I don't think I have an answer to that because, like, I love having dyslexia because it's really cool being different. Because if everybody was the same, like nobody had dyslexia, nobody had dysgraphia or anything like that, it'd be boring. But if some other people had dyslexia and dysgraphia, like it's cool because that's what makes you different.
But it also comes at a price, and I think we can all respect that.
Thanks for spending time with us on Don't Call on Me. If today's stories touched you, please take a moment to follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube. Extend the impact by sharing your story at don'tcallonme.com. Your experiences can foster understanding and strengthen our collective voice. Let's keep making a difference together. We look forward to having you back for the next episode.